live, you are live. Good afternoon and welcome to the incredibly dramatic skies on our live sunset safari. Over the last few hours we've been watching a bank of clouds roll in, and now we're watching as it slowly scuds completely past us. My name is Jamie, and this afternoon I have Liam back on the vehicle once again, having got back yesterday from his leave, actually 2 days ago now. I think it's 2 days ago now, and we are coming to you live from Djuma, Arathusa and Cheetah Plains Game Reserves in the Sabi Sand in the Greater Kruger National Park area of South Africa. Now, not only are we live, but we're also interactive, which means send through your questions on #SafariLive on Twitter, or you can email through on questions@WildEarth.tv. And before we launch into our plans for the afternoon, just have a look at this incredibly dramatic skies that we have right now. I'm saying ooh because all of a sudden it's raining on us. But basically what we'd be doing is we actually thought we were going to end up postponing the start of the sunset safari as the storm came in, the wind was howling, it was all dramatic, and now it's all gone to the Kruger National Park, which isn't such a bad thing. That's actually a wonderful thing because that side of Kruger really does need the rain. It would have been very nice if it had arrived with us as well. But it got to the point where it really looked like it was going to miss us, so much so that we actually haven't put our rain covers on our car. But so far this is just 2 big drops of rain, and that's pretty much it. I don't think it's actually going to properly rain upon us. Don't think so anyway. That question remains to be seen. And that's one of the big reasons why I haven't gone racing off to the eastern side of Djuma, which is where the lions are with their kill. It's because I wanted to get an idea of which way the wind was blowing, quite literally, to determine whether or not we were going to have to make a very hurried escape. Those of you who've been watching over the last few days know that a hurried escape from that particular spot is not really all that possible. And at one point it honestly looked so ominous. I thought the heavens were going to open and bring down a deluge of rain. It is deluging over there, which is great for us because it means that we can go ahead with our sunset safari. We're not really geared to cope with torrential downpours, but it is disappointing in that it means we don't get any more rainfall in this particular spot just yet. And I think it's probably safe enough for us to start heading towards those lines, but in the meantime, Mr. Henry, of course, is back from leave, and the strange weather has brought out his strange antics, and he seems to be up a tree again.
Good afternoon everybody, and welcome to this section of your sunset safari. The sun will not be setting in the direction that I am standing. I have been framed here looking out east by Jean-Dre, who is on camera with us today. He thinks that the grey background to my grey personality would fit rather nicely. We were rather hoping the sun might come out and light me beautifully so that my inescapably poor looks might be improved by the natural lighting. Anyway, as Jamie has shown you, we have had some very dramatic skies today, and Jean-Dre is showing you more of those now. We're as live as Jamie is, so please do talk to us. My name is James, and you can talk to me, of course, during the next 3 hours, provided the deluge does not hit us as we drive around. We will then head for home if it does. But you can talk to me, #SafariLive, questions@WildEarth.tv, and we can answer any questions that you might have or address any comments that you might like to make about what we're doing, where we are in the world, or any of the animals that we are hopefully going to see. Our plan this afternoon, if I don't injure myself horribly coming down from this tree, is to head towards the cubs of Karula, the young prince and princess, Shongile the female, Hosana the male. It was very difficult for me to say those 2 names, but I've done it anyway because I'm brave of spirit. And we're going to go towards where they were eating a little scrub hare this morning that we think the little male, Hosana, managed to kill, which was very clever of him, of course. Jamie, I think, is heading towards the lions, and all of that is going to take place, of course, in the event that the weather does not close in on us too much. There are many sticks sticking up my shorts right now. It's deeply uncomfortable, but I shall keep talking without breaking stride, and now I shall walk gently down this tree as if it is a flight of steps. There you are, Andre. Not bad for an old man, is it?
Bravo.
Thank you so much. I think that's all I have to tell you, everybody. So now we can get on with the business end of our little game drive.
Kirsty gives you 3 out of 10 for your performance.
Kirsty gets me 3 out of 10 for the performance. That's because Kirsten is inescapably not nice to me, of course, you see. She's a very harsh woman indeed, and that's because she's a redhead and therefore has no soul. Okay, on we go. This tree is the Djuma. It's not only a very good perching spot, that is where we do our bush gym sometimes, but really kind of odd clouds for this time of the year. We really thought it was going to rain, but it didn't. There were a few spits and spots while I was standing on the tree there, waiting for Jamie to do her introduction and view of the beautiful clouds. And I'm sure you'll have that more than just the twice that you've had it today already, because it is so very special to see a sky like this, especially in the middle of July. Well, no, we're not actually in the middle of the July anymore, are we, Andre? No, indeed, we are on the beginning of August. Women's Month. I don't know if that's a worldwide thing. I think it's just in South Africa. And I must just say, yesterday, I forgot this completely, but yesterday was World Rangers Day, and we're often confused, I think, Jamie and Brent and I, for rangers. We aren't rangers, really. We've all done some kind of ranging work, but we're guides. And rangers are the guys, the selfless people that spend their days out in the wild protecting these wilderness areas. And especially at this time of our history, when elephants and rhino especially are under siege, it's those selfless people who do what they do for very little monetary reward. In the Kruger, into Mozambique, into Zimbabwe, and all the other great wilderness areas of Africa. It's those people for whom the day was yesterday, and it's in their honor. And I'm sorry that I forgot about it yesterday, but I'd just like to give a shout out to all of the rangers around the world, especially the African ones who are protecting our last rhino and elephants. And all the other species, of course. There is a brief or sort of subtle smell of petrichor in the air, and petrichor, for those of you who don't know, is a delightful smell of rain, the first rains, and it comes, as far as I can tell from the various articles you've all very kindly sent me on it, is from some sort of oils that are released into the air. Some say it's fungal spores, but I think it is probably the oils that are released out of the soil, sort of, what do they call them, Gendre? Essential oils that are released from the soil by the moisture, and it's that we smell, that delightful smell of petrichor when you have the first rains on the soil. But I don't think it's going to rain too much more than it has already. You can see off the, I think it's just a very strange sort of storm that gathered above us and then moved off. And lots of you are saying you hope for rain. Well, we'd like to have some rain too. I don't think it's going to happen, but maybe that cloud will turn around and come back and dump on us. We've had 20 mils already, which in July, I'm sure everybody said it's really unusual that we should have rain in July. And that's interesting. I didn't know the lions were in that direction. I think Jamie was avoiding the weather. Oh no, madam, I couldn't possibly. Oh no. No, I couldn't. No, really. No, really, I couldn't. As you were. Yes.
We'll hit the line now with the rain.
Okay, are you going to go Chorlapan Road or?
I'm going to go Chorlapan and then...
Perfect. I'll go all the way down.
Okay.
Bye, Viam. Just about every year since I've been working in this area, there's been one strange rainstorm in the winter time. So yes, while it is unseasonable, it's not that unusual. But the weather, somebody said to me as I was on leave, they'd said, you know, every single winter is the coldest winter on living record, and every single summer is the hottest summer on living record. It's like every male lion you see for the first time is the biggest male lion you've ever seen. So yeah, I tend to these days try and kind of lessen my adjectives on the weather, but it is difficult. Let's head across to Jamie, find out where she's going. Well, I've told you where she's going, so she can tell you again, and we'll head to the south.
And there's nothing like a little bit of repetition to set the tone for this afternoon. I'm going to go towards those lines. Unfortunately, James and myself have been doing some lurking close to camp, just in case the storm changes direction. Doesn't look like it's going to. It looks as though we're quite okay. And so James and myself shall split at the start of this road. I shall go off to the left, James shall go straight, and thus we shall divide our time more efficiently in terms of looking for wonderful things to show you. Why is he hooting at me? Is he hooting to say goodbye? Bye! I didn't even know these cars could hoot. How do you make them hoot? How do you do that? Is this one broken? That's so disappointing. I know that, I can't remember which vehicle I was on. It was Jigger. I know that Jigger will definitely sound the alarm if you press the wrong immobilizer button. I know because I did that during my interview drive when I was parked for the very first viewing of the Styx Cubs last year. I know that Jigger can certainly make plenty of sound when she wants to. You can imagine the sinking feeling that befell me as that moment occurred. It was utterly traumatizing for myself, not so much for the lions didn't even lift their heads, but at the time it felt like the worst faux pas I could possibly have made. Obviously the very kind bosses decided to overlook such a transgression, very fortunately for me. I'm so disappointed I couldn't hoot back in response, but anyway, we shall continue on. James is absolutely right. There is a truly beautiful smell in the air at the moment. And a very warm welcome on our way to look at some tawny lions. Amy, you wanted to know about white lions and whether or not they could survive in the wild. Amy, they do survive in the wild. There's a population in the Timbavati that the white lion gene is quite powerful. Recently, very recently, that genetic, because it is of course a recessive gene, and we'll go into that in a little bit more detail in a moment, but very recently that gene somehow hopped around over the entire half of Kruger and into a place called Singita, or the Singita concession, near the Lobombo Mountains, and there all of a sudden 2 little white lion cubs were born. So essentially, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the white lion's genetics, it is a recessive gene, and therefore white lion offspring can only be born to 2 parents that carry that genes, and even then it's only about a 25% chance that the offspring will be born white, unless you've got 2 white lion parents. That being said, white lions have less of a chance of surviving than the normal tawny coloured lions. That's because A, their skin is more sensitive to the sun, as well as their eyes, and B, as you can imagine, it messes with their colouring ever so slightly, because the one colour that really truly stands out in the African bushveld is white. A flash of white stands out so clearly. So they don't survive, as their survival rates are a little bit lower, but because the lion is a social cat, I think, it slightly skews it in favour. If it had been look, there's a giraffe staring down upon us. Very dark coloured. Sorry, Amy, we'll go back to our white lion discussion in a moment. But for now, we have a giraffe with an oxpecker, or 2 or 3 on its back. Giraffe have been incredibly scarce over the last few drives. I don't know why that has been. This one is such a rich, dark colour. A mature bull in his prime. Hello, mister. Where have all of our giraffe been hiding? It's really nice to see one, actually, although this one seems to be very much intently on the move. I know that it's a bull, first of all by just his size. He is much, much larger than the females. And then that dark color, even the old females that have the genetic predisposition to being slightly darker in color, even they never reach quite that sort of tonal, almost black color. Hey boy. They walk deceptively quickly. Looks like they're just strolling, but of course when your legs are 2 meters long, a lot more ground is covered. We'll try and keep up with him for a little bit, just because it has been a while since we've seen giraffe, but I think as soon as we reposition, he does seem to be very much on the move. But we'll try and stick with him. I know at least one of our viewers, Tiffany, absolutely loves giraffe. They're her favorites to see. I hope she's watching this afternoon. But recently we've been asked by a lot of viewers where our giraffe are hiding. Looks like there was rain here. Interesting. Just some puddles in the road. Unless it's just moving through the seep lines, perhaps. Still, every now and again we're getting drops of rain. Hello, boy. Can we come say hello? Isn't he, though? Donna's absolutely right. He is absolutely gorgeous. Oh, he was having a scratch. And when you don't have hands, and you certainly can't get your feet up to where the ticks sit, then scratching on the nearest vegetation is your next best choice. And of course those sensitive areas are the ones that attract the ticks. So he is reversing back onto a tree. And are we going to go forward again? Yep, we're going forward again. Get in under those legs. And often you come upon trees that have fallen victim to such methods. Oh, we're going backwards again. Of helping with an itch. Elephants and giraffe both do it. And you'll sometimes find that they are slightly the worse for the wear after an assault of this nature. There we go. Not the gentlest of method. Oh, we're going forward again. Oh, it must be really itchy. Back again. So not the gentlest of methods. At least he's picked a bush willow and not something with thorns. Not that he would have. Something's attracted his attention. What have you seen? Ah, are we going back again? No. Done. The itch has been dealt with. And those pesky ticks, I think if we went and examined that tree a little bit more closely, we'd probably find 1 or 2 straggling ticks waving their legs in the air. Oh wow! Fish eagle's calling as well. Look where it is. It sounded very close to us. And our giraffe gentleman, absolutely right. He is quite gorgeous. A really deep, rich colour. There's his oxpecker friends. Now that he's finished his scratching, they can come and give him a hand with picking up the remainder of the ticks. And he is munching away on a buffalo thorn. And the top of his ossicones. The older a giraffe gets, the more prominent those bones become around his skull. So if you look really closely, you'll see the 2 protruding behind the horns. There we go. Thank you, Biam. See those little sort of outgrowths underneath well, I'm terming colloquially the horns. They're not horns, they're os cones. Oh, so many ox pickers on one's head. Just gets a bit much even for this giraffe. You can see the irritation in him. And welcome back to Dispatch, Griffin. It's lovely to have you on board once again. Dispatch, I believe, is one of our newest addicts. And Dispatch actually, strangely enough, predicted the lion hunt, kind of accidentally, having told us that our quiet morning was the calm before the storm, which proved to be 100% correct. And Dispatch wants to know if all of the giraffes of Africa are so docile, or if it's just because, like our elephants, these giraffes have become accustomed to our presence. A little bit of both. Giraffe tend to be one of the easier animals to habituate. Oh, that's so delicious. Giving us a lovely view of his tongue. Hello, beautiful. So it is a combination. Yes, this giraffe, like all of the animals of the Sabi Sand, just not just the elephants, but the antelope, the zebra, the buffalo, they've all become accustomed, and from the moment of their birth probably have had vehicles driving around them. So that's one of the big reasons. But giraffe do habituate easily. They're one of the animals that can actually become incredibly habituated, to the point that you might even see some movies or videos of giraffes sticking their heads through car windows, into lodges, especially in areas where they have been, whether correctly or not, usually incorrectly, fed in some way. They can actually be surprisingly dangerous. I've seen an incredible video as our giraffe moves off. I've seen an incredible video of a giraffe chasing a field guide with a vehicle full of tourists. Now that must be the most bizarre experience. Imagine having to pick up the radio and saying, I'm being attacked by a giraffe and I don't quite know how to handle it. Because what do? Do you try and chase it away? They've got a serious kick. I've seen a few smashed windscreens as a result of a giraffe, or people getting a little bit too, what's the word, blasé around giraffe and getting too close, and the giraffe turned around and went, well, actually, I'm close to a ton in weight and I've got 2 meter long legs that are incredibly powerful, and gave very clear demonstrations of that. I'm going to try reposition one more time. The light's very difficult. And he's playing hard to get, but we'll try one more time, just so that we can answer Jesse's question. Oh, he is very tricky. We'll just get the top of his head sticking out there. Jesse, giraffe don't have a set breeding time, so they will breed throughout the year. They don't have a rut like the impala or the wildebeest or even the warthogs do. They breed throughout the year. You'll find that there is a spike in births around the summer months, which makes sense because it's the rainy season, so therefore there's the most food available for the mothers and the babies. But generally what will happen is these bulls will wander around. If they happen to find a female in estrus, and it's something that we've seen before on these live safaris, they will court her for many, many days, often 2 weeks. And they sort of try very hard to convince her to mate with them, and most of the time she rejects them. And she does that for a very good reason, because she's waiting. It's instinct, and it allows her to wait for the best possible male to pass on his genetics. Now this gentleman would be a truly good match, or suitor, for any female giraffe. He's big, he's in prime condition. A deep, rich color is indicative of plenty of testosterone, so he is a male in his prime. And it's only when 2 males come together over a female in estrus that they will actually properly collide. And a serious giraffe fight is very, very rare to witness, but it is, you often see them sparring with each other, learning their strength, gauging their strength. But a true fight where they really seriously go for each other is quite incredible. And they can occasionally result in the death of one of the contestants. I recently read, this is to take things down a slightly more depressing route, but it's something that I read that I found really truly fascinating. I recently read a story that was seen by one of the guests in the Kruger National Park, where a giraffe fight occurred and the loser was knocked to the floor, and obviously had a broken leg, or something had broken because it couldn't get up, and it couldn't get up, maybe a broken pelvis, because they do slip quite easily on the tarred road. an aeroplane somewhere, making a lot of noise. I don't know where it is. Oh, it's going into land. There we go. Well done, VM. Not something we often see at this time of day. Anyway, this poor giraffe couldn't get up again, and the guest reported that this giraffe actually ended up committing suicide. Now, whether or not that's true or not, it's a difficult one to gauge, but I have heard stories of animals doing that, particularly when they're grievously injured or they're unhappy about something, which is quite a scary thought, and it just gives us a little bit more insight into animals' state of mind. Our giraffe is playing really hard to get now, to go on to more happier things. He is well and intact and fully healthy, and I think we'll probably move on for now, before the other vehicles start heading out, so that we can go and book our place at the lions. I'm very much excited about seeing those little cubs one more time. I'm really hoping we're going to get to the stage where the youngest set will be old enough to come out and about, and we'll get to see all 8 little Nkuhumas. And then there's also one part of me that really wants to go and check up and see that little cub again for myself. I only noticed it at the end of the sunrise safari 2 days ago, but one of the Nkuhuma cubs has a limp, and I just want to go and see if I can work out exactly what's happened to it. Thank you, mister. He has all but disappeared into the darkness of the trees. The sun feels like it's about to come out. It's turned into a really lovely still afternoon after all of the dramatic wind that was blowing earlier. Perfect. And as we did that, the sun came out. Bizarre. I wonder where that cold front came from. The clouds that came in from the south have basically passed. They're blowing away now with a short, sharp, what must have been a short, sharp cloud burst. And there's nothing following them. It's just blue skies. I was about to say July is a very strange month in terms of transitional weather, but it's not July anymore, is it? It's August, as of today. August, I guess, is a strange transitional month. And perhaps we shall encounter some elephants on our way towards the lions. Now, speaking of the rain and the fact that in a way it has almost been unexpected, it's been very nice to have as much rain as we've had in the winter months. Aaron would like to know if there's any animals that we're going to see more of if we do get good rains this year. And the answer is not really. Funnily enough, in terms of, for us, not that we want what's best for the environment, not for us is in terms of game viewing. For us, the drought actually provides the best possible game viewing that we could see, because the animals are forced into smaller areas, into more concentrated areas around waterholes. And Aaron, you might have noticed that a lot of our general game dispersed as soon as we had that little bit of rain. And that's what happens in summer. It gets harder. First of all, it's really hard to see things. And second of all, the animals are more, as I said, they're more widely dispersed. They're not concentrated around waterholes. I can't think of a species that we would see more of. We might maybe see bigger herds of buffalo coming through, although they've been forced into this area anyway because of the lack of water in the Kruger National Park. I can't think of a species we'll see more of. We'll see lots and lots of little impala and baby wildebeest. That's always there, but we're going to see that anyway, regardless of what happens with the rainfall. The question is whether or not they will survive in future. We will probably see more hippopotamus. They might move in from areas where they've been a bit more concentrated if the dams start to fill up. But that is probably it. I can't think of anything else. And bird life might be quite spectacular. I found that the bird life was quite subdued this year, thanks to, in the middle of summer, thanks to the lack of rainfalls. We got the cuckoos coming in and the various migratory species, and they came in for a couple of weeks and then they kind of dispersed off towards the reserves closer to the mountains that had more rain. And we might see more bird species. We will definitely, the one thing we will see, Aaron, I'm thinking mammal species, but one thing we will see is lots and lots of insects. This year's insect explosion was very much reduced, but in summer when the rains come properly, dung beetles flying everywhere, black eyes for the person holding the spotlight or for the cameraman sitting behind the presenter light that attracts all the bugs. We'll have so many awesome insects to look forward to, and that's when bushwalk really comes into its own, because you really do have this opportunity to observe things up close and personally and become acquainted with all of the creepy crawlies, or the hohos as we call them in colloquial South African. There'll be an insect explosion, that is one thing I will tell you, and probably more reptiles as well, because I felt very much as though we were lacking in chameleons during the summer months this year. But then it was also my first summer spent in the Northern Sabi Sands, so I don't know what's normal for this area. Oh, hello little boy. Spotted the Inyala on the left. There's a little gentleman waiting to cross the road. Look at you, with your silly little horns. Not so silly little horns, actually. Hello, boy. Hasn't even got his adult colouring yet. Here's another little one, off to his right. Also a male. Look closely. You'll see the horns starting to poke through at the top of the head there. I always wonder if that's really itchy for them. Like getting teeth, but different. In fact, it's probably itchy sore, like toddlers experiencing teething. There are two little boys, actually. Our Nyala, like the giraffe, don't have a set breeding time. And that one, look at all the stripes on the one on the right. But they don't have a set breeding season. They'll breed at any time of the year. And shame, I called this little one's horns a bit pathetic. But actually, those daggers are when they become the most dangerous. We were speaking to Mike, who lives next door to us, and those of you who were watching will remember that we found there was a dead male Inyala that had been completely eaten by vultures, hadn't been eaten by a leopard or a lion or hyenas, and that we found out had died in a fight with another Inyala next to Mike's house, and he'd gone and dragged it to that area away from his fence line. And he said that the male Inyala was a full-grown male Inyala. He said it was killed by, because he was watching, a young male that was a little bit older than the one that we just saw. But you know, when they start to grow, their horns are like little daggers. They're about that long, and they're really, really sharp and pointed. And apparently this little Inyala got cornered and turned around and pierced the lung of the older Inyala. Now, not to be trifled with. A couple of deaths, human deaths related to Nyala and bushbuck living in people's gardens. So they still should be treated with utmost respect. I hear that James has been driving through some dense vegetation. Let us go find out what he was up to and what he has to show you.
Hello everybody. We've come to Karula sighting here. That seems to be her. I've got to tell you, I think there's something a bit odd about this. The coat looks much too yellow, but while I try and assess what's going on there, just up on the bank here, Jean-François has managed to spot both cubs. They're up top there. We might try and reposition around there. I'm just going to have a look, see if this is Madame Karula. It just looked a little odd. But maybe she's just had a bath. She's just been to the salon. And I can't really see her face, or her spot patterns, or her wow. But I can't actually see much at all. Alright, so for those of you who weren't with us this morning, Herbert tracked the leopards in here. And then we came in and we managed to see the little cub, Hosana, and he had killed a scrub hare, and possibly his first kill on his own. And we've come back in here now to see them at the original kill that Herbert found. Now, that's not Karula. I think that's a male. I think this is a young male. It's definitely not her. So what's going on? The two cubs are up there. I wonder if it's not Tingana. I'm just trying to see the spot pattern. He's 1, 2, 3, 4. He's 4-4. Tingana's 4-4, is he? Tingana is 5-5. I can't see exactly. Mvula is 4-3. I don't think that's Mvula. I can't see him properly through the bushes there. Crystal H, you say this is Tingana. Brilliant stuff. And there he is moving it. So, this is tremendously exciting. We've got possibly most likely the father of the two cubs. The two cubs are up there on the bank. Have you got Karula there? And then we've got Karula behind. This is fantastic stuff. We've got Karula behind the tree with the two cubs there. There she is. I can see her moving, and I can hear Tingana growling at her. Yes, I can see now. Now she's laying down. Two cubs up there. Now this is not uncommon, of course. Big male leopards will steal their kills from the females. What we're going to do is go around the side, the other side there. Genre, I think we might get a better view from there, and we'll certainly get a view of the others. Isn't this exciting? This is just fantastic. A sort of family meal. Obviously Dad was late home from work, so he's eating on his own there. Andre's actually got a much better view than the one I've got. This is fantastic stuff. I'm just going to quickly call it in, and then we'll move. Yeah, I've relocated here off Leadwood Road. Now 4 animals on site. Tingana is here as well. But we've got maybe 1 out of 5 visual. Okay, let's move. And if we can't see anything, then we'll come back here. Now, the reason I'm speaking slightly more soporifically, Brent just said that Karula was a little uneasy this morning and gave him a bit of a growl. He wasn't sure if he thought it was most likely that the leopardess was growling at her cubs rather than Brent. But we were easing very gently in here. Jean, just make sure I don't tip you into the drainage there, if you don't mind. You know, I'm obviously mostly concerned about the vehicle. Isn't this amazing? Yeah, it's not going to be easy to do this. Deborah Armchair Traveller, while we turn around, you say the last time you saw Tingana he was very thin, and you wonder if he stole this kill. I think it's almost certain that he stole this kill. She wouldn't approach a kill with her cubs that he had made. Well, I say that, it's unlikely. It's certainly not impossible, but it's unlikely. But he, of course, being a big male, this is his territory, and male leopards are good scavengers. He may well try and scavenge from her, and I suspect that's what's happened. You're right there, Andre. He says all good. Quite quietly, that's good. Right. Of course, every tree that could possibly in the way is in the way. And we don't want to end up in this drainage line, for it is not shallow. Indeed, it is very deep. And Wendy, in her deeply aged state is unlikely to get out. There's a lovely view of him. Say when, Gendry.
When?
There, we got a good view of him now, everybody. 1, 2, 3, 4. Cat and Tampa, you say much family going on with all the leopards at the moment. Yes, there is quite a sort of family thing going on, isn't there? He's just growling. So we've got lions with the males and the females and the cubs. Leopards the same. This is just fantastic. Okay, let's move around. Wow, I didn't expect that. Now, Gendry, please watch out on the left-hand side. Well, this might not decapitate you, it will certainly do some serious damage. Alright. Right, we're going to try and... I was going to say ease, but it's difficult to ease in bush like this. We'll go around the side there. And while we do that, I think let's go back to Jamie, find out what's going on with those lions, and I'll try and get into a position in a slightly more quiet position.
Oh, how exciting is that? 4 different leopards in one place. Amazing. Well, we have arrived at the buffalo kill, and it's incredible. There's no lions here, by the way. They are completely gone, and the carcass is totally picked clean. Just some bits of skin and a little bit and the head left, and it's quite, I was just saying to VM, it's actually quite a profound experience watching something like this, because 2 days ago this buffalo was alive and well and sprinting towards the car, and so much has changed, and it's provided food for, how many lions is that? There were at least 6, no, there were 5 cubs here, plus the 5 lionesses, that's 10, plus the 2 males, that's 12 lions. The 12 lions have finished off this carcass incredibly quickly, and it looks like they've all since left the area. There's nobody here except one lonely vulture sitting on the top of that dead tree. And just like that, the circle of life is pretty much complete, at least for the big things. Now that the vultures, the hooded vulture, by the way, that was a hooded vulture, now that the vultures have picked clean the carcass, all that remains is for the hyenas to come in and take what bits they can scavenge away from it, maybe chew on some of the bones, and then after that it's down to the worms, the horn moth larvae that will start to settle in, and the various bacteria. And we've closely examined lots of different types of bones and skulls and horns. We've seen what happens to them. But in a year's time we'll come back to this place and it will just be bleached white bones, and that was all that will be left. For now it's just skin, hoof, and a little bit of buffalo, and that's it. And so far, Roger, in answer to your question, no sign of any hyenas having come through. Hyenas, when they come in and they settle, they will have spread the bones far and wide as soon as they come in to start to feed off a carcass. And Roger, I haven't heard any reports of hyena activity. They have been really, really busy though. They've got a very big job, and that is cleaning up 2 dead elephants at Buffelshoek Dam. Oh, not Buffelshoek Dam, at Buffelshoek property. There's 2 dead elephants there, both of which, as far as we know, have died from natural causes, and the hyenas have just moved in, and the hyenas and vultures have been having a field day. The lions haven't even bothered to go there, or at least the females haven't. And we discussed why, and we think that probably because they've got the cubs. They don't want to risk taking cubs. There's the risk of strange males. There's a risk of other lions coming in. They just can't take the chance, even for a free meal. They've settled for hunting their own. Roger, no sign of any hyena activity, but I haven't been out since yesterday morning. So I was off yesterday afternoon and this morning, and it's amazing how in just that time period you lose track of what's happening exactly around you. So I haven't seen any hyena tracks. Usually first thing in the morning you're constantly building up a picture of what's going on, but I haven't done that for the last 24 hours. So it's really nice to be out and back on the vehicle again. I strongly suspect that these lions are at Buffelshoek Dam. That is where I expect to see them, unless VM spotted one
I'm just wondering, is that a hammerkop nest?
Oh wow! Awesome! That's exactly what that is. Wim has spotted something else fascinating. That indeed is a hammerkop nest. It is the largest nest that is built by one bird. So it obviously doesn't compete with the famous nests of the sociable weaver in the Kalahari and those places. But that enormous nest belongs to one smallish bird called a hammerkop, or a hammerhead. And that's the first time I've ever noticed that before. That's awesome to know. So it's absolutely huge. So huge that raptors even build... I thought we only had one of these on the property. Even raptors or storks will build their nests on top of the hammerkop nest. And it's one of the reasons why there is this belief that hammerkops are bad luck, that they're actually demons in bird form and that they can shapeshift. Because people used to watch... What's that? Oh, it's flies. I wonder if it's occupied. How cool is that? There's the entrance hole. Huh. Be really worthwhile keeping an eye on this particular spot. Maybe next time we do a bushwalk, come here and go and have a look at the hammerkop nest. But yes, local people used to see the birds coming in to the nest site, and they've got lots of different false entrances. So it would look like the bird just disappeared, and then all of a sudden a bird of prey would fly out from the top of the nest, or a snake would crawl out of one of the holes, because these nests are so big that they provide a perfect little home for lots of different things. And as a result, it led to this belief that hammerkops are shapeshifters, demons. Not, of course, true. They are just birds. They are not bad luck in any way. Okay. I think we should go and look for these lions. And the first place I'm going to go and check is the local waterhole, because I think after a big meal of buffalo over the last 2 days, some water will be the first thing they think about. But while we do that, let's go back across to James and find out what his spotted cats are doing.
Well, there we are, everybody. 3 spotted cats. Karula, Shongile, and Hosana. And just sort of over to the left-hand side of your screen there is where Tingana is eating their supper. And they're all looking at the meat. They're sort of, well, I guess they're rather hoping he won't finish their supper completely. But that's why they're not looking at us, and I'm afraid I can't get to an angle where we can see them and him. I'm just going to quickly talk to Tax on the radio. Tax, animals on site, only one station has called in coming here, and that was me, no one else, so make your way, and as soon as 2 of you are here, I'll move out. Tingana is also on site here, but not much visual. Yeah, FM, definitely. Now, B. Wilson and Deborah, of course, you're asking the very good question, are these cubs in danger from Tingana? I'm going to say at this stage, no. Tingana, I'm pretty sure, is the father. Even if he isn't, he clearly thinks that he is. Otherwise, I suspect he would have killed these cubs, and she would have taken them away. If they were to approach him, rather like those little cubs approached the male lion this morning, then I think they would be in some kind of trouble. But they're not going to do that. I think they'll wait here. He's obviously growled at them. We've heard him growling. So I don't think that they're going to try and approach him. And, you know, she would give the signal. If she felt there was any danger from him, she'd just move them away. It's really quite a special thing to see this. Yeah, I mean, look at her coat is totally different from Tingana's. It's just, it's less contrasty, if you know what I mean. It's just kind of more uniform. Now, we're not going to have all day here, so let's just enjoy this while we can. I know that there are definitely 2 people coming, but we'll have about 10 minutes, 10 or 20 minutes, somewhere around there. Let's just enjoy while we can. So get your questions in now if you want to ask any questions. Hashtag Safari Live, questions at WildEarthTV. You don't even need to ask us a question, you can just send us a comment about what you think of this lot. And Deborah, you say you hope that Tingana's limp is better. Well, I rather hope Tingana's limp's better too. He looked to be in pretty good nick, but obviously we didn't see him walk. But you know, these cats will survive with a limp. They'll survive with all sorts of injuries that you can't believe they will. The big injury at the moment that we're talking about, of course, is that little lion cub. Definitely got some kind of nasty injury, possibly from being smacked by one of the females or the males at that buffalo kill. But interesting that they are not there anymore. And maybe they're all at Buffelshoek Dam. That's possible. It is quite impressive to see her flipping over like that. Naturally. Paul, you say you wonder how many times these cubs have seen Tingana. I'm trying to think. I can't think of an incident, but we do know that Tingana's tracks have certainly been in Little Gowrie, which is the reserve to the south of us, at the same time as Karula's have. So it's well possible that he's met with them before. And yeah, I mean, it's such a fascinating thing to me. I don't know if she mated with anyone else. She certainly mated with Tingana. I think it was, what was it, 3 or 4 times before, and I mean 3 or 4 different full mating sessions before she conceived these two. Now, whether she mated with Mvula sometime on the slide in between that, or maybe even the Anderson male, I don't know. But Tingana's reaction here is one of that he thinks he's definitely the father. And that's why these things are fast asleep in his presence. Clearly not worried, but they're certainly not confident enough to go off and try and sort of share the meal with him. That would be very leonine behavior. These, of course, are not lions at all, are they, Gendre? No, these ones have got the spots. And all is beautifully peaceful. Not sure what the temperature is at the moment, but in the sun here it's pretty warm. It's probably sitting at around 24, 25 degrees Celsius, which is around about 75. So I'm told from the final control that it's 2373 Celsius and Fahrenheit. Now, Gendre doesn't have the long lens on him, but I don't know if you can see the far cub there, which I think is young Hosana. But he's breathing very heavily because he's obviously eaten quite a lot of that impala. And I suspect that Karula is rather hoping they'll be able to have a bit more, as opposed to watching Tingana devour all her hard work. I'd love to try and move everybody and get a better view, but I don't think we're going to get a better view. Now, Rocky Knight Brent yesterday had a pair of mating leopard tracks, or what he thought were mating leopard tracks, male and female, somewhere around the gate, around the Vuyatela gate. Sorry, the sun is quite bright in my eyes. You want to know if it could be these two? No, it couldn't be these two. A, they were not there. They're a long way from there. We know their tracks have been around here, or certainly her tracks have been around here for a long time. But also, she will not come into estrus until these cubs are either killed, which we hope was not going to happen, obviously, or until they go independent. And that's not going to happen for some time. So, no, the chances of them being the mating pair are almost 0. Look, he's just lifted his head up there. who the mating pair is of course quite interesting, because I know that Mvula, while I was on leave, was getting in on the action, which was nice to see, especially as he's no longer a territorial male, so his chances to pass on his genes are now going to be inescapably low. Here he comes, little fellow, hello. They have, you know, they've got larger since I was on leave, if you can believe it. Only 2 weeks. I suppose that's pretty normal for a young animal. But they've definitely got a bit bigger. That's very unkind of him to lie there, isn't it, Jandre? You may have heard Jandre go, Now, Jean in North Carolina, you want to know if we're on Djuma, if these leopards are on Djuma. They are absolutely. We're on the pretty close to the southern boundary, only about, say, half a mile as the crow flies to the southern boundary. No, not even that, probably a third of a mile. And so I think they came in from there. We had tracks of Tingana, or certainly a big male, coming in from Leadwood Road, which is on the southeast corner. And he came in from there, but we're definitely on Djuma. I'm going to try and sneak forward very slowly and just see if we can't get a view of the little male and possibly a better view of Karula. I've only got about 6 feet before I'll hit a tree, and I'm not going to run it over, given how close we are to them. Say when, Jandre, you've got a shot. That's exactly correct, because I couldn't go any further. Isn't that nice? There we go. Even with our pea shooter lens. Sarah, you're in Ohio. I don't think I've spoken to you for a while, so thank you for getting hold of us again. You say, hasn't Tingana been known to kill his own cubs? I don't think he's made a habit of it. It's possible that he's killed his own cubs before, but it's also possible that he's killed cubs that he realized were not his, and, you know, so cubs that that perhaps people thought were his, but in fact were not. But I don't think he certainly has killed cubs before, definitely, and he's killed cubs that we've thought were his before. But you can see from this, and obviously they've had an interaction, because, you know, he's come to the kill. You can see from this that they're obviously not particularly threatened by him at all. I think they heard him moving. And that's why they are. That's why they're suddenly heads up. That's lovely. Hello, Jeffrey in Durban. A nice question from you about whether or not leopard cubs would ever meet up with other leopard cubs like the lion cubs do. Jeffrey, the answer is probably not. Not impossible, and it does happen sometimes, but it's unlikely. Mainly because they don't live in a pride, you know, so the mothers are seldom around each other. Now, that said, it's possible that Shadow could meet up with Karula from time to time. They live next to each other. Shadow has got a cub. Now, look at little Shongila there getting up, having a look at the impala, obviously very hungry still. And so it's possible that they'd meet up, and then the little cub of Shadows and these two would meet up. They wouldn't play like lion cubs do. Well, it's unlikely that they would, and that's simply because they wouldn't know each other, eh? Oh, there we go. She's moving down, sneaking up on Dad. Go ahead. Taxon, go ahead. Sorry, I've just got to talk to Tax on the radio. Negative, you won't see me from the road, you'll have to follow my tracks in. I don't think they're going to get those big Land Cruisers around here. Ha 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 ha. But Genre, you came in from the other side, did you?
South.
From Mumba Road?
Southwest.
Okay.
No, from the same road.
Okay. So she's just looking over to see if if Dad has left the meal or not, and I suspect from her reaction that he has not, because she would go down there if she felt she could. There she goes. She's moving now. Aaron from Brooklyn, you're a new viewer and it's wonderful to hear from you. Thank you for talking to us, and a very good question. Why don't they just get their own prey? Why do they continue to wait for the male to leave theirs? Well, this is their prey. She would have killed it. He's stolen it from them. And I think they've eaten quite a lot of it, just given from the heavy breathing. They also killed a little scrub hare, which is like a rabbit around here this morning. But, you know, the energy expended in catching an impala like that is quite a lot. And so they'd really rather wait to see if there's anything left. I don't think there is going to be. Oof, big thunder. I don't know where it came from. That cloud's disappeared. But this is interesting. She's taking a chance now. You see her moving around now. Here she comes. She's coming towards us now. Isn't it wonderful? She's going to come to her brother? No. Not. And Jandri, I'm afraid I don't think I can move any further forward. They are so sweet. Fox hat, a very good one from you while we're sitting here. Well, we're probably about 10 feet from these leopards. You're saying, does turning the engine on and off make a difference to their habituation? Definitely it does. But interestingly, they take their cue almost entirely from their mother. If we get too close, they do move away. They're not nearly as curious as hyena cubs. But at the same time, I mean, we had a sighting of them the other day where I managed to set off the alarm in this car, and so you heard me maybe hooting gently at Jamie earlier. But the car was going beep, 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 beep. They didn't even move. They didn't even react. And I think that's because they took the cue from their mother. Go, Tax. I'm just going to have to help Tax get in here. Tax, just keep coming. You're going to have to try and cross that drainage line. Ideally, you need to do it from, like the sort of northern side of where you are now. I can hear you. You're not far, but it's quite tough in here. No, negative. Tax, if you look in front of you, you'll see a half-dead knobthorn, and behind that a marula tree on the other side of the drainage. Can you see that? I'll just turn Taxon on so you can hear him, and you can be part of the conversation. Now, Tax, look due north from where you are. You'll see the drainage line, and there's a marula tree on this side of the drainage and a knobthorn tree on that side of the drainage, and we're just the other side of the marula tree.
Brent this morning we crossed
Further north.
It was easier
West, down there.
yeah, it was easier for them.
Okay. Let's just see if we can get him in this way, otherwise we'll send him down to the west. That's quite sweet, isn't it? Tax, just turn off there. I'm going to turn on and then you'll hear the engine. I'm going to turn off again quickly. Sorry everybody, I just got to try and help them to get in here. Did you copy that? I crossed just to the east of where we are here, but it's quite difficult. Chandra says Brent came in from the west earlier, so it might be easier to get across further west from where you are. Okay, yeah, I did cross from where you are. I can see you now. I crossed further east from where you are now. I can see you. Anyway, while they're trying to get in here, we'll just enjoy the leopards. Alright, let's go across to Jamie while I try and help these chaps get in here. Get an update from her, and we'll come back to the leopards before we have to leave.
Sounds like a really difficult position that those leopards have managed to pick, and Taxon's definitely going to need some help getting in there. No luck with the lion search. I'm disappointed. I was convinced we were going to come round the corner to Buffelshoek Dam and found them all sprawled across with giant bellies just sitting next to the dam. But that, alas, was not to be the case. And their tracks, there's one or two of them coming backwards and forwards from the kill to the dam. But there's no indication that the entire pride went in that direction. So where have our lions gone? There's one thing that's bugging me, and that is the fact that there's still meat left on that carcass, and those vultures are not on it. And it makes me wonder that those lions aren't hiding somewhere very close by, still being a bit defensive instinctively, even though there's nothing really left for them to feed off. They might still be protecting the carcass from the vultures. The fact that we've got such a collection of them, and it's not just that one hooded vulture. When I've gone round to the other side, I noticed that there's about 20 vultures hanging around the area, but they're all in the trees. They're not down at the carcass. Unless they've already had a chance to feed and they've got full crops, I don't think so. I'm going to go back and investigate. For now, let's head back to James and his leap of leopards.
And it is a leap of leopards, this, everybody. You've got a view there. We still haven't managed to get those two chaps in, I'm afraid.
Where do you think you're going to take off? I was thinking the place where we are, so never know, maybe it's on the west of the Shingova or something.
Okay, let me just quickly talk to them again.
On the western side.
I'm on the western side of the drainage line, guys, the western side. You have to cross the drainage from there or come in from Mamba, but even if you cross, you can cross further down towards the Mulwati or up towards Drakensberg Road, but I'm on the southwestern side, northwestern side, sorry, of the drainage. I'm not sure why they're struggling to get in here. I think it's because their vehicles are so very big in comparison with ours. Makes it quite difficult for them. Anyway, here we are. Gives us a bit more time with them, which is wonderful. And Karula just snuck up towards the drainage, I think, to have a look. But one of the cubs came to say hello to her, and she kind of gave a bit of a hiss at him. And then she moved off, I think, to look to see if Tingana was still there, perhaps eating her hard-won meal. It's the most wonderful, peaceful afternoon. Marianne, you want to know if Tingana will hoist that kill and pull it up into the tree, or he'll just leave it there. I think he's going to leave it. I don't think there's too much of it left. I think he's pilfered it from her, and so I think he'll probably just finish it there, to be honest. He might just, if he's on his way patrolling or something like that, he might leave it earlier, and then she might hoist it up into this tree. But hoisting it, remember, would have made no difference to whether she had it stolen from her or not, because almost certainly Tingana would have managed to pinch it from her in the tree as well. And I suspect that's one of the reasons that these leopards sometimes don't hoist their kills. It's because one of the greatest scavengers of their kills are bigger leopards. And so although putting it in a tree does keep it safe from hyenas and lions, it doesn't keep it safe from other leopards. And we've watched Karula have kills stolen by Mvula, in a tree, seemingly safe in the tree, and the kill got stolen by her one-time consort. And all the way in the background, other than the sound of Aubrey coming to the sighting, is the little white-browed scrub robin. It's about the only bird song at the moment on this very peaceful Monday afternoon. I was just saying to Viam earlier this morning, Jean-André, that it'd be much nicer to be sitting in traffic somewhere, don't you think?
Yes.
Perhaps in an office reading a legal document. Wouldn't that be much nicer than doing this? This is an awful way to spend a Monday afternoon. For those of you who don't know me too well, that's called sarcasm. And it is, of course, my favourite form of wit. Yeah, just look to your left there, Orbs. Alright, everyone. Sorry, it's Tax. To your left, Tax. We're going to have to leave these beautiful leopards, and we are going to leave them here in the capable hands of Taxon. And while we move away, let's go back to Jamie, find out what she's doing, and I will see you once we're out of the sighting.
Well, James heads away from the leopards for now. I'm going back to investigate where this carcass was, because I'm not 100% convinced that these lions have moved all that far away. I think if they had, the vultures would still be feeding off that carcass, especially with the number of vultures that are here. And so, I've come in from a slightly different angle, just to triple check that these lions aren't just hiding with giant bellies somewhere in the shade, where we couldn't quite see them before. This was the original approach to the carcass before we found a different and much easier route in. Poor Brent had to try and find his way down here in the dark the other day. There's the carcass hiding behind the trees, and now is there a lion hiding somewhere here? Is that why the vultures have been so reticent to make an approach? Let's go check here quickly. Let's poke our nose over the side. I'm reluctant to try and walk in this drainage line because I know that this is where the lionesses have been keeping their cubs safe, and I don't want to actually scare the cubs at all. If they have them somewhere here, I can't guarantee that they don't. If I knew it was just the Nkuhumas and the Birmingham boys with full bellies, I'd be far more comfortable about walking. But with the little cubs, they tend to get very nervous with people on foot. And then there's of course the risk of coming upon little cubs and Mom not being terribly impressed. And Snoop, welcome back as always on the back of our sunset safari. Snoop would like to know what happened to the little lion cub that was injured and how it was injured. We don't know. We have absolutely no idea. I felt as though that lion cub looked a bit thinner than the others, but I'm not 100% sure of that. And I don't want to cause distress where I needn't. It might have been, I don't see any lions hiding in this drainage system. It might have been from an injury to the cub as a result of getting a bit too bold from feeding off the carcass and perhaps got a bat by one of the adults. That does happen. It might have been an injury that happened if it fell. Lion cubs get injured. And I've seen a lion cub with what I thought was a broken leg go on to heal and reach adulthood and be absolutely fine. So there's by no means cause for panic just yet. I don't know where it is now. Probably with the other lion cubs. Mom's not going to leave it behind. Mom will stay and look after it and make sure that it's safe and hope and that it can keep up with the rest of the group. So it will be fine, and that's where being a social cat comes in hugely handy, because injuries like that might be a death sentence for something like a leopard or a lion, for a leopard or a cheetah. For a lion, they've got a far better chance of surviving because they've got the rest of the pride to help them out. And as long as they can still walk and keep up with the lions, they will be okay. So definitely no reason to be too distressed just yet about the state of that little one. I think it's going to be just fine. Tell me how these lions disappeared. Because they didn't walk on this road. They didn't walk on one of them walked on Hyena Road, but up to Buffelshoek, and they did it. I don't think it was from today. So where on earth did these lions go, and why won't the vultures go down to the carcass? One more time. We're going to drive in one more time to this carcass and just see if I didn't miss something. Perhaps they're sitting on top of that drainage line wall. Oh, in we go again. And if we don't have any luck here, well, there's exciting news coming from Cheetah Plains. So I might be going there if we aren't successful here. That was a much better angle that I approached that at this time round. I just would have expected to see more vultures pecking away at the face. There's still meat left there. Perhaps there's a male hanging round, too lazy to move. I don't think we missed anything though. Alright, back to square one. There is a delightful scent in this drainage line. Delicious smell of rotting buffalo. There we go. Okay, we might lose signal as this antenna goes down. Hopefully we don't. Okay. Now I feel better because now I feel like we've very thoroughly checked the spot and there really isn't anything here. There's total silence. Let me just chat to James ever so briefly on the Game Drive channel, since we might be able to coordinate a tracking expedition to try and see him. There's no lions here. I wonder if they're not just that side, on that side of the drainage line wall. James for Jamie. But James, I've checked Hyena Road. There's one set of tracks going north, but they don't look like they're that fresh. And I've also checked Buffelshoek Dam, 1 or 2 tracks coming backwards and forwards from when they went to drink there when they were still feeding. Although I don't know where they've gone from here. Copy that, thank you. I'm going to go check Quarry Plan. They might still be in this drainage somewhere. The tracks that I saw on Hyena Road, I now know are the male that Vernon saw this morning. That's why they weren't terribly clear and they didn't look fresh, because they've been partly driven over. Obviously the vulture's soaring overhead. Well, I guess that's that. I guess the carcass is just, they can't be bothered to go to the effort of trying to get into the bit in between bits of the vertebra, because there's enough meat left on that face still. Maybe it's deceptive, maybe there's hardly anything left. Gruesome and yet fascinating at how quickly it's gone from living, breathing animal to skin and some bones. Half the rib bones are gone. Quite incredible. Okay, right, now I feel better. We've double checked. There's no lines here. Let's go back and check in some of the other directions that they might have walked on, because there's, unless there's somewhere on this other side of the drainage line wall, it might be worth going to check Quarry Pan or somewhere similar. If I walk over there and onto this dam, having now driven, that's where we drove in to watch this buffalo kill, and that's where I had to reverse away from the buffalo and the lioness that was on top of it. If I walk over there now and the lionesses are lying in the drainage line below it, they're going to feel very seriously trapped. I'm listening for cub calls as well, but I don't think they're going to keep the cubs near a carcass with hyenas coming and going. Alright, we're going to go out, look for these lions. In the meantime, let's go over to James, who has got one of the other birds of prey.
We had 3 battaliers on this. One of them took fright, and now it's 2, but on a beautiful tree quite close to the road. I think this is definitely 2 of the pair that lives or nests on Leadwood Road, and I think that other one is probably a juvenile from that the 2 of them gave birth to some time ago. Beautiful birds. And just sunning themselves quietly. Now, of course, they would love to have got in on the action at the buffalo, but their vultures got in there well before they did, and so they wouldn't have even bothered. Isn't that lovely? It's perfectly kind of backgrounded by the blue sky, and it's quite a pale sky today. It's not that deep blue sort of winter sky we're used to. And there they are, in their dead trees, surveying the land for dead things. They also eat, of course, living things, once they've killed them themselves, like lizards and snakes sometimes, and small mammals, like gerbils, scrub hares, small children. Not really small children, they don't eat small children. I'm just being facetious. Look at that. Shaking their feathers, just lining everything up, possibly thinking about taking off, going for a small flight. Now, of course, what they see is probably profoundly different from what we see. Their eyesight is spectacularly good, far better than ours could ever be. And the amount that they'll be seeing perched up here, looking off to the east and west, is, I would imagine, in much sharper detail than we're able to see it. And not only that, I would also think that it's probably, I'm sure they can see a lot further as well. But these birds of prey do tend to have very chilled out kind of lifestyle, so they do a bit of flying about the place. They fly a lot, they don't fly very actively. They just sort of hang beautifully in the air, low down, and then they do quite a lot of sitting. I know some people like that. Quite a few, actually. That, of course, if we sit here for long enough, will become quite a pleasant sunset shot. We'll just reverse a bit and have the sun going down behind them. But I'm sure by then they will have moved on. And I don't think we're going to wait here for an hour, do you, Gendre? Do you think you might go to sleep if I sat here for an hour in the sun? He's nodding. Off. Gorgeous red face there. And wings sticking out over the non-existent tail. Sitting in a knobthorn tree, killed by elephants. Not intentionally, of course, but they pulled the bark off to eat it, and that sealed the knobthorn's fate. And so it will stand as a skeleton, probably for, I don't know, maybe 5 years or so, and then it's not a tough tree like a leadwood, and so it'll probably fall over. Brilliant. Okay, let's carry on, and we'll just see if we can't give Jamie a hand with those lions. Not because Jamie needs a hand with the lions, but because we're in that area anyway, and we were the last ones to see them. Oh, here's one I can actually ask. James Richard, you want to know what the local word for the Shangaan word for a batelier is? It's shimungwe. That's shimungwe. And you want to know if there's a local word just for bird of prey, like raptor? No, I don't think there is. There's a word for bird, obviously, that's shinyanyana, or many birds, shinyanyana, and these ones are called shimungwe or swimungwe. So if I wanted to say two bateliers, I would say swimungwe swimbiri. Hello Sabrina, age 12. You want to know if these batelier eagles would eat vultures? No, they wouldn't. I haven't really told you how big they are. The batelier is about this big, so about, what do we say, that's almost 2 feet tall, probably 2 feet tall. And Sabrina, the vultures are a bit bigger, so those big white-backed vultures probably 2.5 feet tall, and they're a bit heavier as well. The hooded vultures, which is the other kind of vultures we saw yesterday, the ones that were eating the disgusting lion dung, they're about the same size. So they wouldn't try and take on something like that. It would just be, there would be too much risk involved in taking something much bigger than them, especially when they're not designed to do that. They're designed to scavenge themselves, and also to just hunt much smaller prey. Go ahead, I'm just talking to Aubrey. Orbs of you with her, it's just down from her in the eastern side, or the southeastern side of where she is sitting, in a big thicket there with Tingana. Alright, let's go and get an just before we do that, there we go. There's a nyala, and while I try and just help Aubrey find the kill, let's go back to Jamie and get a quick update from her. Go again, Orbs.